Gadsden, Ala Dolores Abney, 63, a retired domestic violence counselor, said she and her husband had heard things about Roy Moore and his interest in younger women for years. On Monday night, Ms. Abney said she recalled Mr. Moore, the embattled Republican Senate candidate, being a regular presence in the mid-1980s at the YMCA. There, she said, he was often talking to much younger women that appeared to be high school on up, she said in an exercise class she was enrolled in. I'm not saying he was trying to pick them up. It just did not look appropriate. I truly believe these women, Ms. Abney added of the women who have come forward to accuse him of misconduct in recent days. This type of behavior is highly unacceptable and deplorable in our leaders. But the Abneys are also Democrats and longtime critics of Mr. Moore and his hardline take on Christian values. The emergence on Monday of a new accuser, who said Mr. Moore sexually assaulted her when she was 16, only cemented their views of him. Etowah County, the largely rural slice of northeast Alabama where Mr. Moore was raised and currently lives, was bitterly divided about Mr. Moore before the allegations. And it remains so now. Rumors that once simmered at a low level of his interest in young women, which was mostly deemed moderately creepy rather than criminal, are now clogging Facebook feeds, dominating talk at fast food restaurants, and generating endless gossip. Mr. Moore, many people say, clearly had a fondness for younger women in decades past. When he got married to his wife, Kayla, in 1985, he was 38 and she was 24. But around Gadsden, a city of 36,000 in the foothills along the Coosa River, opinions about the recent allegations tend to follow lines that were etched long before. I simply cannot believe it, said Albert Morgan, 92, a retired pastor who was sitting down to a meal of chicken and potatoes to celebrate his daughter's birthday. He went to West Point, and then he was in the Vietnam War. He's very intelligent. I've always admired and respected him. Mr. Morgan's daughter, Sheila Christian, who had just turned 68, said she was deeply suspicious of the accusers. Let's look at these people's past, Ms. Christian, who works in a doctor's office, said. Roy Moore, if he did it, that's between him and God. Gadsden has a long blue-collar history, sustained for most of the last century by textile mills, a steel mill now closed, and a tire manufacturing plant. It is also a city of churchgoers. But it is not a well of unfettered support for Mr. Moore in a runoff for the Republican Senate nomination in September. Mr. Moore won 57% of the vote in the county, less than he earned in 42 of Alabama's other 66 counties. It is easier to find signs for his Democratic opponent, Doug Jones, than for Mr. Moore. But even in a place that has long ago been polarized over Mr. Moore, there are hints of nagging doubt among his supporters, and admissions by critics that they still want more clarity about the allegations. On Thursday, The Washington Post reported that a woman said Mr. Moore had a sexual encounter with her in 1979, when she was 14 years old, and he was 32.